Hello, good morning. Do you hear me? May sound ba? Okay. Okay, let's start. Can you see the PowerPoint presentation? Paki-confirm if you can see the presentation. Nakikita niyo yung presentation? Okay. So, our topic this morning is about your module 7 and 8, right? Tama ba? Okay, and of course your worksheet. Um, so I hope you studied the two modules in advance so that we will have a smooth discussion about the topics included. Okay. So if you can see, try to look at your worksheets. Di ba meron dyan na part 1, the question is on how to tell whether a given rule or yung function defines a linear function or not, right? So there are several conditions that we have to meet in order for us to tell whether a given rule or an equation defines a linear function or not. And the first condition is that it must not have an exponent higher than 1. Okay? So, usually, a function is denoted by f of x. Okay? With this symbol. So, recall that f of x is simply equal to y. Okay? So, sinulat lang natin siya in different form. So, y is simply f of x because we are talking about function. Okay? F here stands for function. However, we can use other letters. Pwede tayong gumamit ng ibang letters to denote any function. So actually, we can use g of x, or we have h of x, or any letters from the alphabet. Okay? So ito, napapalitan natin to, yung mga letters dito. But generally, we always use f to denote function. So going back, the question is how to tell whether a given rule defines a linear function or not. And the first condition that we have to meet, it must not have an exponent higher than 1. Okay? So the variable there, particularly the x, must not have an exponent higher than 1. For example, we have f of x is equal to x plus 4. Okay? So x here must not have an exponent higher than 1. So that means 2, 3, 4, and so on and so forth. If it happens to have an exponent higher than 1, for instance, we have 2, this is no longer a linear function. Okay? So, quadratic function na siya. Take note that the name of the name of a function can be determined by the degree of the degree of its exponent. So we have here x squared. That means this is no longer linear. It is a quadratic function. Okay? So you have to take note, for it to be a linear function, the exponent must not be higher than 1. Okay? So if we have higher than 1, 2, and we have 3 here, so that is no longer a linear function. For instance, since f of x is simply equal to y, so we could have y equals x plus 4. Okay? Same as well with x. So y also must not have an exponent higher than 1. So dapat the two variables must have an exponent not higher than 1. So dapat pareho silang 1 na dalawa. So this is what we call linear equations in two variables. Okay? So linear equation na mayroong dalawang variables. In this case, we have x and y. Do you follow? Nasusundan ba? Okay? And then, let's move on to our second condition. The second one, it must not have a radical symbol or sign. Supposing we have f of x is equal to, let's say we have square root of x plus 10. Okay? In this case, observe that the term here contains a radical symbol, this one. If this is the case, automatically it is not a linear function. So it is no longer a linear function but a radical function. So from the symbol itself or the name itself, radical. So kung meron na siyang presence ng radical symbol or sign, automatically it's no longer a linear function but a radical function. Okay? Are you following? So that's it. So you have to remember these two conditions. Must not have an exponent higher than 1, and then the second one, radical sign or radical symbol. And the third one, it must not have a fractional exponent. So when we say fractional exponent, that means fraction. Okay? Supposing we have f of x is equal to let's say we have 2x, and then the variable x here has an exponent 1/2 minus 5, for instance. So fractional exponent here, x raised to the power of 1/2. Okay? So a fractional exponent actually is equivalent to a radical symbol. A fractional exponent is the other way of writing radical symbol. So pareho lang siya na radical symbol. Okay? We can actually write this as 2 square root of x, okay, minus 5. So this is the other way of writing 2x raised to 1/2 in terms of radical symbol. Okay? So for another information, take note when writing expression involving fractional exponent, the denominator here 2 becomes the index, nandito siya, but we are no longer writing actually 2 as the index. That is actually the lowest index. So kapag wala siyang number dyan, it is to be understood na meron siyang 2. And then, the numerator 1 here becomes the exponent of the variable here. Okay? So, you have to recall that. Let's say, for instance, we have f of x is equal to let's say 5x raised to 2/3 plus 1. Okay? So again, sa third condition natin, it must not have a fractional exponent. In this case, we have x raised to 2/3. So if we're going to write this with a radical sign or symbol, we have 5. Okay? Take note, the denominator of the fractional exponent is 3. Therefore, that becomes the index, which is the cube root, and then the numerator here becomes the exponent of the variable x plus 1. So this is actually the other way of writing a fractional exponent in terms of a radical symbol. Do you follow? Understood? Okay. So what do we call a rule containing a radical symbol or radical sign? It is not a linear function, so what do we call it? Okay, radical function or radical equation. So not all radical equations are functions actually, but in this case we are not going to discuss that. Okay, that's for another topic. And what do we call a rule that contains a fractional exponent? Well, actually, pwede natin silang tawagin na radical equations din. Pero meron siyang exponential. Ang tawag doon is exponential equation or function. Kung meron na siyang mga variable as an exponent. Okay? Pero in this case, we can still call this as as a radical equation pa rin naman, because a fractional exponent can be expressed in terms of a radical symbol or a radical sign. Okay, that's it for condition number 3. And then let's move on to number 4. It must not have a variable that appear as the denominator. Okay, so for example, we have here, let's use g of x. G of x equals, let's say we have 5 over x plus 7 and then minus 4. So observe that the variable x here appeared in the denominator. Okay? If this is the case where the variable appears as the denominator, automatically it is not a linear function. So what do we call this type of relation or rule? We call this one a rational equation or function. Kung hindi siya g of x, you have to take note halimbawa, y lang siya. Okay, y lang siya. So this is what we call a rational equation. Kung ang notation na gamit is g of x, nakaganito siya, nasa function siya na form. Are you following? Nakuha? Okay. So, in number 4, when a variable appear as the denominator, so it is called a rational function. Rational. Okay? R-A-T-I-O-N-A-L. Okay? A rational function. Nasa form siya ng A over B. Okay? So automatically, this is not a linear function. So that's it. And then, let's proceed to number 5. it must not have a negative exponent. Okay? So negative exponent. Supposing we have h of x equals 2, x, let's say we have negative 2 plus 9. Okay, so observe that the variable x here contains a negative exponent, which is negative 2. So what will happen if one of the terms, particularly the variable, will have a negative exponent? So negative exponent can be written actually as, for example, so recall that this x here has a denominator 1. If we're going to express this the other way around, it will be, if we're going to remove, kung kukunin natin yung negative, pwede natin siyang express as its reciprocal. Kapag sinabi natin reciprocal, yung kabaliktaran niya. Okay? The denominator becomes the numerator, and then the numerator becomes our denominator. In this case, this becomes 1 over x squared. Okay? Magiging ganito ang itsura niya ng eto na to. The variable x containing negative exponent. So, meron tayong 2 dito. So, that means 2. Yes. Yes? So, that means kung positive exponent siya, as long as it is not a fraction, meaning linear siya. Do you follow? Are you following? So, again, so I would like to emphasize this. We can have any numbers as exponent, positive numbers as an exponent, so it would still be a linear function, except that it is a fractional exponent. Okay? Maliban lang kung fractional exponent siya, hindi siya linear. Another one is kung negative exponent, fraction or whole number, basta negative exponent siya, so it is not a linear function automatically. Okay, so in this case, ang term na 2x raised to negative 2 can be expressed as 2 over x squared. So, take note, condition number 4, the variable must not appear as the denominator. So, dito, naging denominator siya. That is why it is not a linear function. Okay? Do you follow? Naintindihan? Okay? So, these are the 5 conditions that we need to satisfy in order for us to tell whether a given rule defines a linear function or not. So, let's have this one. Tell whether the following rules define a function or not. So, right? Function, if it's a linear, if it's, take note na sa worksheet nyo, may kulang ako dyan. It should be tell whether the following rules define a linear. Dapat linear siya kasi linear lang dinidiscuss natin dito. Defines a linear function or not. So, you're going to write function if it's a function and then relation if it's otherwise. So, let's have number 1. Okay? So, let me ask Angel, is number 1 a function, a linear function, or not? Not, because? Okay, that's correct. So, number 1 is not a function, therefore this is a relation. Do you follow? R lang nilagay ko but in your worksheet, you need to write relation. Okay, follow the format. With all capital letters. For a while, meron yatang nag-request ng, let's see. Nag-request yata. May nag-request. Okay? Let's go back. Oh. Then let's have number 2. Let's have Carlo. Carlo, what's your answer for number 2? Is it a linear function or not? Carlo? Is Carlo still around? Anyone? How about wala ba si Carlo? Wala si Carlo? Who answered number 2? Sino yung nag-answer sa number 2? It's name please. Marcel. Okay, so number 2 is not a linear function. Can you tell us why? Okay, because of the radical symbol here. So number 1 is relation because it is not a linear function. Number 2 is not a linear function as well, so this is a relation. Okay, let's move on to example number 3. Who can answer number 3? Come again. It's a linear function. Take note, a linear function. So naka-specify dapat yan na linear function. May kulang lang ako dyan sa directions. So linear. So it's a linear function. Therefore, our answer here is function. Okay, let's have number 4. How about Sheena? Sheena, what's your answer in number 4? Is it a linear function or not? It's not a linear function because what makes it not a linear function? Come again? Because of, okay, because, yes, it has a negative exponent. Meron siya negative exponent, and for instance, kung hindi man siya negative, it's higher than 1. Okay, that's correct. Next, number 5. F of x equals 5 over x plus 4. Let's have Stephanie. Tell me first if it's a linear function or not, and then we are going to tell after which if we are going to answer function or relation. So number 5, is it a linear function or not? Not a linear function because because the variable x here appeared in the denominator. That's correct. Therefore, our answer here is relation. So this is also relation. Okay, let's proceed to number 6. So we have f of x equals 4/5 x plus 7. Let's have Samantha. Samantha, what's your answer for number 6? Is Samantha around? Or anyone? Let's have Nicole. Nicole, what's your answer for number 6? Linear function or not? Nicole? Hala? Or let's have Calex. Calex. Number 6. Alex, number 6. Wala. What's your answer for number 6? Is it linear? Come again. Linear. It's linear. Yes, it's linear. So it's linear function. Kasi no negative exponent, no radical symbol. The variable does not appear as the denominator, and then no fractional exponent. So it's a linear function. So this is actually relation. Let's have number 7. F of x equals 6x raised to 2/3 plus 5. So maybe we could have Carlo. What's your answer? Yes? Y relation? Yes, it's not a linear function because your reason? Fraction what? Be specific. It contains fractional exponent. Okay, 2/3. Yes. Okay, the last one. Let's have number 8. How about Glenry? Glenry, number 8. What's your answer? Is it a linear function or not? It's a linear function. Your reason? What's your reason? You might be confused here because there are two variables with the same, two terms with the same variable. We have negative 7x and then we have 2x. But if we're going to simplify this, we have y equals transpose negative 7x to the right. This becomes positive 7x and then plus 2x and then plus 5. Okay, then we have y equals 7x plus 2x combined rather similar terms. This becomes 9x plus 5. Okay, as you can see, after simplifying the equation, we have now y equals 9x plus 5. Okay, so y is simply f of x, and then both y and x have the same exponent, which is 1. So therefore, number 8 is a linear function. So therefore, this is a function. I'm sorry, number 6 is function, this one. And number 7 is not a function, therefore this is R. Okay, that's it for these examples. So is there any question? Do you have any question or clarification maybe? So that we can move on to our next topic. Anyone? Do you have any? Okay, so That means everything is clear. Okay. The next one, so we are done on how to tell whether a given rule defines a linear function or not. Okay? But what if the given is a table of values? So how to tell whether a table of values defines a linear function or not? So we only have one condition here. If both the x and y values have a common difference. Kung kukunin natin yung difference ng x and y values, pareho yung kanilang difference. That means that table of values representing the relation is a linear function. So for better understanding, let's have an example for this one. Okay, so I have three table of values here. So you are going to tell whether the following table of values defines a linear function or not. So for number one, so according to the condition earlier, if both the x and y values have a common difference. Okay. So all we need to do actually is to get the difference of between the x values and the y values. So paano ba 'yon? Eto, we have here 1 and 3, kukunin natin. So if we're going to get the difference between 3 and 1, difference meaning subtraction. So 3 minus 1, we have 2. So the difference is 2. Okay? How about between 3 and 5? That means we have 5 minus 3 equals 2. Okay, 2 still. How about 5 and 7? So we have 7 minus 5. We also have 2. 9 minus 7. Okay, the difference is 2. So as you can see, the x values have a common difference, which is 2. But this is not yet enough to conclude that this table of values is that of a linear function. We need to check whether the y values will have a common difference as well. So we have 6 and 10. Okay? So subtract 10 minus 6. So we have equals 4. So we have 4 here. Okay? Take note not 6 minus 10, but 10 minus 6. Sa sunod, gagamitin natin yung next number minus the previous one. And then we have 14 minus 10, of course. We have 4 as well. And we have 18 minus 14. We have 4. And we have 22 minus 18. We have 4 as well. So as you can see, the y values here, represented by g of x, have a common difference, which is 4. Same as well sa x values with a common difference of 2. If this is the case, where both x and y have a common difference, therefore, this is a linear function. Or this table of values defines a linear function. Understood? Are you following? Okay. How about number 2? Sige nga, you do it. Number 2. Get the difference of the x and y values. And then you tell me later if number 2 and 3 defines a linear function or not. I'll give you, I think 1 minute is more than enough. Go. If you are done, you can turn on your mic and then state your answer. Anyone? Just be careful with the negative signs. We always need to be careful sa sign, okay? Everything will go wrong if we fail to consider the sign. In real life, ganon din, di ba? We have to be very careful with the sign. Kung ang signage sa karsada, for example, hindi tayo dapat mag-cross, tapos nag-cross ka, what will happen? So, accident. So, that teaches us to be careful with the sign. Okay, number 2. Is table number 2 defines a linear function? Anyone? What do you think? Wala? Anybody? Yes? State your name and then your answer. And why? How can you say that table number 2 is not a linear function? Were you able to get... Yes, go on. They don't have a common difference, or differences rather. Okay, let's see. Tignan natin ha. Do you agree? Okay, so let's check. If we're going to get the difference sa x values, we have negative 1 minus, take note, negative 2. Okay? So that means negative 1. So negative times negative, kapag nagkasunod yung dalawang negative, that means multiplication, magiging positive yan siya. Magiging plus 2. So, negative 1 plus 2 is 1. Okay? So, meaning ang difference dito is 1. That's it. Then, how about 0 and negative 1? Take note ha, meron akong space na nilagay dyan sa worksheet nyo. That is why, if you have noticed, parati kong nilalagay, show all your works. That means you need to show your solution. So that I will find out, or what do we call this one? I can see kung tama yung concept nyo ng pagmamanipulate ng mga terms, most especially sa sign. Okay? Para makita ko what's going on. Why do you have difficulty in simplifying numerical expressions or algebraic expressions? Napaka-importante yon. Then we have 0, negative 1. So we have 0 minus negative 1. So that means we have 0 and then minus negative 1. This becomes plus 1. So we have 1. So we also have 1. 1 minus 0. So it's still 1. And then 2 minus 1 is 1. So there's no problems sa x values. They all have the same, or they have a common difference. Now let's check the y values, h of x. So we have 2 minus 5. Okay, so we have 2 minus 5 here. The answer is negative 3. Then 1 minus 2, so negative 3. And then this is negative 1 because 1 minus 2. Right? So this is actually negative 1. Then 2 minus 1, we have 1. And then 5 minus 2, we have 3. So as you can see, there is no common difference here. So automatically, this is not a linear function. Okay? Hindi siya linear function. Kasi sa first level here, there is no common difference. Are you following? So not a linear function. Pero kung kukunin ulit natin yung ano nila, common difference. Negative 1 minus negative 3. Tignan natin So, additional ano lang to, information. So, negative 1 plus 3. This becomes, the answer is 2. And then 1. 1 minus negative 1, or let's have plus 1 agad. So, 2. 3 minus 1, 2. So, sa pangalawang level, pareho ang kanilang common difference. If you have noticed. Kapag ganito yung case, na kapag nagkaroon ng common difference sa pangalawang level, tinatawag natin yun na quadratic equation or quadratic function. Are you following? Quadratic na siya kapag nasa pangalawa yung common difference. Understood? Are you following? Okay? Let's erase muna para meron tayong space. So number 2 is not a linear function. Then let's proceed to number 3. How about in number 3? Linear function or not? Linear function ba? O, para mabilis tayo Ako nang gagawa. 1 minus 0 is 1. 2 minus 1. 1. 2 minus 3. 1. 4 minus 3. 1. Then, how about sa y? 2 minus negative 1. That means 2 plus 1, we have 3. And then, hindi ko na isa-show yung computation 5 minus 2, we have 3. 8 minus 5, we have 3. 11 minus 8, we have 3. So, x values have a common difference of 1. And the y values have a common difference of 3. Therefore, number 3 is a linear function. Understood? Okay. Then, if there's no question or clarification for this one, let's move on to our next topic. This one. So, complete the table. As you can see, meron akong same na problem dyan sa worksheet nyo, right? So, in the first column, we have the function, and then sa next column, we have the values of f of x given x is negative 2, negative 1, 0, and 2. And then you're going to write the ordered pairs, and you are going to express it in tabular form. So let's have f of x equals 2x plus 1. So all we need to do is to substitute, okay, the given value. Take note, f of x yan f of x. So that means, ang x dito, negative 2. Ito value ng x yan. Yung mga nasa loob na yan. So therefore, negative 2, we are going to substitute this for x. So let's have the first one. Show all your works dyan sa worksheet. So that means, our x here is negative 2. So substitute. Pati dyan sa loob na yan, substitute mo yan dyan. Equals 2 times negative 2, okay, plus 1. And then simplify. 2 times negative 2, we have negative 4 plus 1. And then negative 4 plus 1, we have negative 3. Therefore, when x is negative 2, f of negative 2 is equal to negative 3. Then do the same if x is negative 1. So we have f of negative 1 equals 2 times negative 1 plus 1. Then 2 times negative 1 is negative 2 plus 1. And negative 1, negative 2 rather, plus 1 is negative 1. So when x is negative 1, f of x is negative 1. Okay? Then f of 0. Substitute. So we have f of 0 is equal to 2 times 0 plus 1. Then simplify. 2 times 0 is 0. And then plus 1. And then 0 plus 1 is 1. So if x is 0, our f of x is 1. Then the last one, we have f of 2. So substitute again. So we have f of 2 is equal to 2 times 2 and then plus 1. And 2 times 2 is equal to 4. And then plus 1, we have 5. Okay? Then, if x is 2, f of x is equal to 5. Then we're going to write the ordered pairs. X is negative 2, and then our y is negative 3. Susulat lang natin. Negative 2 and negative 3. Then, comma. If x is negative 1, our f of x is negative 1. So we have negative 1 and then negative 1. Next, if x is 0, y is 1. So we have 0 and then 1. If x is 2, our f of x is 5. That's it. Okay? Then, in tabular form, lipat lang natin. If x is negative 2, negative 1, and then 0, kulang dito ng isa. We have 2, then we have negative 3, negative 1, 1, and 5. Simple as that. Okay? Are you following? Nasusundan? Okay, sige. I'll give you time to answer number 2. Sige. And then we're going to answer number 3 example. Okay? Tapos ipakita nyo sa yes. Let's say mga 1 minute siguro. I think kaya, mababa lang naman yung numbers eh. Kaya? Okay. Start. Tapos videohan nyo nga para makita. Tapos itignan ko dito sa screen kung tama yung sagot. Magsabi lang kung sino para ipakita ko dito sa screen. Tignan natin. Don't be shy. Kung may mali, okay lang yan. Nobody's perfect. Kaya nga tayo nagdi-discuss. Okay? Sige. Go. Sige. Start na. I-turn off nyo muna yung mic nyo para hindi magana. Charissa, your mic please. Ay, sorry. If you are done, magsabi lang, tapos tignan natin yung solution mo sa papel. Meron ng tapos? Yes. Pwede namang hindi mag-construct ng table, basta i-column nyo lang. Lagyan nyo lang ng, parang i-ano nyo lang, i-column nyo lang yung mga answers nyo dito. Parang sumusunod lang din siya sa table na to. Hindi na kailangan maggawa ng table, it takes time. Okay na ba? Yes. Sino nga? Carlo, tama? Sige. Lagyan mo, ano mo, i-video mo yung ano mo, yung solution. Titignan natin. Okay na? Ayan o maigi. Hindi mo ginawa na parang ano, parang final answer lang na naka-table. Mukhang malabo ng masyadong malapit. Sige, compare lang natin. Compare lang natin mamaya. Okay, sige, sige. Parang nakaganito ba siya? Ito, yung mga final answers na. Para makita natin mamaya. Sino yung kanina? Aside from Carlo? Kalex, sige nga, tingnan natin habang piniprepare ni Carlo. Sige nga, i-landscape mo yung yung phone. Kapag nag-video kayo, conference, landscape nyo, hindi portrait. Gayahin mo yung ginawa ko doon sa table. Ganito, eto. Nakaano siya. Kung f of 2, negative 3, parang ganun lang. Or tanungin ko na lang siguro. Sige, sige nga. Unahin ko si Carlo. What's your answer, Carlo, sa f of negative 2? Negative 14. Let's see. We have 3 times negative 2, negative 6, minus 8. Okay, negative 14. Then, for f of negative 1, what's your answer here? Negative 11, okay? And then, f of 0, your answer? Negative 8. And then, for f of 2, negative 2. And, how about here? What's your answer here? Is negative 2, negative 14. Okay. And then, next. Okay, negative 1 and negative 11. Okay. And next. Zero, negative 8. Okay. And lastly, we have 2, negative 2. Okay. And sa x values here, we have negative 2, negative 1, 0. Pareho lang naman, di ba? Pareho lang. Gagayahin lang natin dito. Then, sa f of x, we have negative 14, negative 11, negative 8, and negative 2. Who got the same answers? Okay, very good. How about the others? How about the others? Did you get the same answers? Same ba yung mga answers nyo? Okay. So let's move on to our third example. H of x equals 2/3 x minus 3. So in this example, it involves fraction. Let's see. I'll show the solution here below. So we have h of x. Sagutan kagad natin those who answered earlier, very good. H of negative 2 equals 2/3 then times negative 2 Negative 2 minus 3. In this case, negative 2 here has a denominator 1. Ano siya? Meron siyang denominator 1. Another way of writing this one actually is 2x over 3. So meaning, i-multiply natin yung x sa 2. In this case, we have negative 2. That means 2 times negative 2, we have negative 4 over 3 minus 3. Okay? And we're going to simplify negative 4 over 3 minus 3. That means we have negative 4 over 3 minus, so it is to be understood that 3 here has a denominator 1. Okay? So to simplify two fractions like this one, you can use the LCD. Okay? 3 and 1. The LCD here is 3. Or you can use the shorthand method, cross multiplying. Since 3 and 1 has no common factor, we can use the butterfly method. Kung nakikita nyo ito, you know. So 1 times negative 4 is negative 4. And then this one, ayun. So 3 times negative 3 is negative 9. Tapos, eto, 3 times 1 is 3. So, ginagawa lang to kapag walang common factor yung denominators, meaning prime numbers. So, negative 4 minus 9 is negative 13 over 3. So, this is now the answer. Negative 13 over 3. Okay? Are you following? Then, let's proceed to f of negative 1. Let's erase the writings first. Konti lang yung space natin. So, do the same. Habang nagsosolve ako, you can solve on your own as well. And then, compare your answers after which. So, we have here h of negative 1 equals, ipakita nyo yung solution nyo na ganito ha. So, gamitin ko na kanina yung 2 times negative 1 over 3 minus 3. Then, 2 times negative 1 is negative 2 over 3 minus 3. So, it is understood over 1. Then, pareho lang kanina, 3 and 1. Cross multiply lang natin. 1 times negative 2 is negative 2. Then, 3 times negative 3, negative 9. So, minus 9. All over 3 times 1, 3. Then, negative 2 minus 9 is negative 11 over 3. So, we have negative 11 over 3. Sulat natin yung negative sa gitna ng fraction bar. Then, if this is 0, well, ito, 0 times 2/3, 0 na siya. So, that means negative 3 automatically. And we have 2 here. So, palitan lang natin to ng 2 dito. H, hindi ko na pinakita yung solution sa 0 kasi madali lang naman yan. H of 2, so we have 2 times 2 over 3 minus 3. Then, we have 4/3 minus 3 over 1. And then, cross multiply natin. 1 times 4, we have 4. And then 3 times negative 3, we have negative 9, so we have 4 minus 9, and 3 times 1, we have 3. And then 4 minus 9 is negative 5 over 3. So we have here negative 5 over 3. I think I need not show the ordered pairs anymore. Gagawin mo lang siyang ordered pairs. We have negative 2 and then negative 13 over 3. Same, negative 1 and negative 11 over 3. At ilalagay mo lang siya dito sa table. Okay? Understood? Are you following? Anyone? Do you have any question or clarification? Okay. So, kung wala na, let's proceed sa Module 8. So, actually, Module 8 is all about solving word problems involving function. And I included problems there in your worksheet to solve the problem by using the Polya's four-step rule, di ba? The first one is to understand the problem, and then the second step, you're going to devise a plan, and then the third step, you're going to carry out the plan, and then 4, look back. Look back means you need to check whether you have a correct answer or not, or it will satisfy your function. Anyway, andyan yan sa module nyo. Tignan nyo lang. Okay? So, when we say understand the problem, what does that mean? Pag sinabi nating understand the problem, that means we are going to analyze and understand the problem and determine what is asked. So, part of that, we are going to identify the independent and the dependent variable. Tama ba? Okay. So, step 2, devise a plan. We are going to list down all the given data by determining the unknown and what is asked in the problem. And then for number 3, carry out the plan. That means we're going to write the function that describes the relationship between the variables and solve the function. And then step 4, look back. We're going to verify if the solution obtained is meaningful to the problem solved. Okay? So I used the same problem here in your module. So for instance, we have here, during the coronavirus disease 2019 pandemic, Mrs. Reyes was not able to report to work because their city was placed under enhanced community quarantine ECQ and everyone is required to stay at home. She was worried because she has no more income to support her 2 children. When she received the 6,000 pesos cash assistance from the Social Amelioration Program, she thought of a way on how this amount will last longer by baking and selling banana cake. Her banana cake cost 85 pesos per canister. So what we are going to do here is complete the table below to show the amount Mrs. Reyes will earn from selling banana cake. Then answer the questions that follow. So, ano yung hinahanap natin dito? Ano yung independent variable natin? So, of course, we need to understand the problem first. So, kapag hindi natin naiintindihan sa unang basa, basahin ulit natin. So, the problem actually is about her sales sa banana cake na kanyang binibenta, right? So, ang ginamit niyang capital sa pagbenta ng or paggawa ng banana cake, yung nakuha niya sa amelioration program na 6,000 pesos. Okay? And her banana cake here cost 85 pesos per canister. Okay? Bawat lalagyan na yon, tinatawag niya na canister. So that means, ano yung independent variable natin dito? Meron tayong number ng, di ba, yung sales, nakadepende doon. Ang sales dito na tinutukoy yung benta niya. Ang benta niya from banana cake, nakadepende kung ilang canisters yung magagawa niya. Di ba? Yun ang ibig sabihin nun. So that means, ang number of canisters here ng banana cake is our independent variable. Yun yung independent variable. Kasi, ang kanyang benta ay nakadepende kung ilang canisters yung maibebenta niya. Right? Tama? Okay? So, identify first the independent and the dependent variable. Another question to answer this problem is, how do we determine the sales? Paano natin malalaman yung amount ng kanyang sales? Paano natin gagawin yon? Dito, sinabi dito sa problem that her banana cake cost 85 pesos per canister. Meaning, kung isang canister yung mabebenta niya, ang kanyang kita ay 85 pesos. Di ba? How about if nakabenta siya ng 2 canisters? 170 pesos. Anong ginawa natin? Pwede tayong gumamit ng basic na addition, di ba? Or, since naghahanap tayo ng function, ito ang sales, f of x. So, mula dito sa data, gagawa tayo ng function. Magiging f of x siya equals, ito ang benta niya, f of x, equals ang cost ng per canister, i-multiply natin sa number ng canister na x. Ito. So that means, kung 1 canister, ang benta niya, ang magagawa niya, so 85 times 1, we have 85. And then, if 2 canisters, meaning 85 times 2, we have here 170. Well, without using this function, actually, pwede natin ma-predict eh. Mag-a-add lang tayo ng bawat 85, di ba? Tama? Okay. However, ang question, paano kung nakabenta siya ng 50 canisters? Alang naman gumawa tayo ng table hanggang 50. Is that still convenient? No. Tama? So, dapat alam natin yung function talaga. So, whatever number of canisters she was able to produce, pwede natin gamitin yung function na yon to know how much is the total sales. Okay? So, kung 3 lang, mag-add lang tayo dito ng another 85. So, that means 5, 15, 255 ba? Tama? Tama ba? O, 255. And so on and so forth. Kung ipagpapatuloy natin. So, what if nakagawa siya ng 20 canisters? Magkano lahat yung total sales niya? So, hindi na natin kailangan na gumawa, ipagpatuloy natin hanggang 20. Multiply lang natin siya dito. F times 20, F of 20 is equal to 85 times 20. Multiply lang natin siya sa price. Okay? So, kapag nagmamultiply tayo ng 0 ang dulo, huwag na natin gamitin yung 0. 2 lang. So, 2 times 5 is 10. And then, 2 times 8 is 16. Plus 1, 17. Tapos, dagdagan lang natin ng 0. So, kapag 20 na siya, ang kikitain niya is 1,700. Understood? Naintindihan? Well, actually, yes. Well, actually, meron na kayong example dyan sa module. Yung susundin nyo lang yung format niya dyan using the Polias 4-step rule. Diba? Step 1 dyan, identify nyo muna yung given tsaka yung what is asked. So, independent variable tsaka dependent variable. And then, sa step 2, gagawa kayo ng function gamit yung table na yon. And then, step 3, gagamitin yung function na yon para mahanap yung tinatanong sa problem. And then, step 4, look back. Okay? I-check nyo siya kung tama siya o hindi. So, halimbawa, paano nyo siya ma-check? Gagamitin nyo yung function na to. Ayan. Kung 1 daw, 85 pesos. So, i-check nyo lang siya. So, 85, will it be equal to 85 times 1? So, 85 is equal to 85. 85 to ha? 85 times 1. There. So, 85. Chine-check nyo lang siya. Understood? Ganun lang kasimple. Okay, so I think na-cover na natin yung yung problems na ina-include dyan sa worksheet nyo and then sa module. Unless you have any question or further question or clarification. Any question or further clarifications, I mean. Do you have any? Meron pang question or clarification? Sigurado? Naiintindihan lahat? Okay? So, for those who failed to attend this online class and if ever they will ask for your assistance, so let them ask and then answer their questions, but please, do not tolerate them copying your answers. Okay? Turuan sila if you have time. Make time para magturo sa kanila. Understood? Okay, if you don't have any question or clarification, so that ends our discussion, today's discussion. So again, thank you for attending our online math assistance class, and stay safe and good day. Okay. Yes, welcome.